Okay, once again, it's time to see if we can turn our knowledge into cash. Time for the Week 12 Best Bets. 3 games I like in this Week 12. Let's get right to them, shall we? Starting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going on the road to face the Chicago Bears. The Bears a 5.5-point favorite on BETDAQ. I was on the Bears last week and they paid me off beating the Minnesota Vikings at home. However, in watching that game, Chicago still looked like a broken team to me. Not much I like about them right now. The Tampa Bay Bucs, on the other hand, don't look now, but the Bucs are starting to come around. You look at the past 3 or 4 weeks, they're playing better on the defensive side of the ball. They went on the road and blew out the Washington Redskins last week. They've turned back to the veteran Josh McCown at quarterback. That has looked like a good move based on what we've seen out of the Tampa offense over their past 2 games. And of course, McCown going back to Chicago here, the place he had so much success last season. Lovie Smith also making his return to Chicago, and they'll be facing a Bears team that ranks 32nd, dead last in total defense. So look, I like the Bucs to potentially win this game. I think they're a good bet as a 5.5-point underdog in Chicago. I think they're going to keep it close, and like I said, possibly pull out the outright win. Next game I'd like to talk about, the Cincinnati Bengals traveling down to Houston to face the Texans. Houston a 1.5-point favorite on BETDAQ. What do you make of the Bengals this season? You know, first 3 games of the year, they look like the best team in the league, and then they look like a non-playoff team before last week when they went on the road to New Orleans. When they went on the road in New Orleans and really put one on the Saints, nearly everybody was surprised at that result. I was really surprised. I think a lot of people are thinking that this week it's time to get back off that Cincinnati bandwagon as they face a Houston team that has been especially good on defense this season. The Texans top 10 in points allowed, and the Texans have a new quarterback now in Ryan Mallett. Now, I am not one of those people who thinks it's time to get off of Cincinnati this week. I am on Cincinnati this week. I think they're a good bet as a 1.5-point underdog. I think they're going to go down to Houston and beat the Texans. Not liking what I'm seeing out of the Houston offense right now. Of course, they can still run the ball. They've been able to run it all season, but saw Ryan Mallett play last week, and they did win the game against Cleveland. Didn't look like they were doing much more with that offense with Mallett than they were with Ryan Fitzpatrick, meaning they were very conservative, not taking many shots down the field. The Bengals are steadily improving on defense as they get healthier. Middle linebacker Ray Maluga back in the fold now. Vontaze Burfict might play this week. He is the best player on that defense. We saw Cincinnati just shut down the top 5 offense last week in the New Orleans Saints. I think they're going to have a lot of success limiting the Houston Texans in this matchup. Don't think the Texans are going to score any more than 14 to 17 points. And even though the Texans are top 10 in points allowed, like we mentioned, they are not good in the secondary, 31st, next to last in passing defense. So if you're willing to trust Andy Dalton a little bit, I know sometimes it's tough to trust Dalton. He can just look so bad at times, but I think this might be a situation to ride Andy Dalton and the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they go into Houston and pick up a win. I'm on Cincinnati this week. Next game I'd like to talk about, my favorite game of the week far and away, maybe my favorite game of this NFL season thus far. Yes, I know I'm going way out on a limb. I could look really bad if it doesn't work out. Don't think that's going to happen though. I think it is going to work out. I love the Seattle Seahawks at home. They're a 6.5-point favorite over the Arizona Cardinals. BETDAQ has also added a Seattle minus 7.5 market now, but the Seattle minus 6.5 market's still up there. That's the one that's been up there all week. Obviously, I prefer that to 7.5. Listen, I think the Seahawks are going to take care of business in this situation. Seattle's 6-4, coming off a tough road loss in Kansas City. They desperately need this win. Cardinals obviously have the best record in football at 9-1, 8-2 against the spread. They've been underestimated all season, it's true. However, in this situation, with a backup quarterback going on the road to face the Seahawks, I do not like anything about the Arizona Cardinals. And it's primarily the quarterback situation that makes me feel that way. Listen, Drew Stanton is no Carson Palmer, as we saw again last week. We should have known that already based on Stanton's 3 starts early in the season. Even though the Cardinals won 2 of those 3 games, their offense was unable to move the football consistently. Last week we saw more of the same. Stanton came back in the lineup against Detroit. The Cardinals produced 2 touchdowns in the first half of the first quarter, but could not move the ball at all for the next 3.5 quarters, did not score another point. In this situation, on the road against Seattle's 3rd-ranked defense, I don't think the Cardinals are going to be able to move it at all. As a matter of fact, as I said on the game preview, I think this really could be a game where the Seattle defense might outscore the Arizona offense. Keep in mind the Cardinals haven't been able to run the ball at all this season. They're averaging fewer than 80 rushing yards per game. It has been the passing attack, specifically downfield passes that have kept this Arizona offense afloat. And downfield passing is where Carson Palmer excels, and it's part of why Drew Stanton has been a backup throughout his entire career. He is not Carson Palmer throwing the football. It's plain for anybody to see who watches the Cardinals play. It's a different offense with Palmer and without Palmer. They're without Palmer now for the rest of the season. Think they have very little chance on the road against Seattle this week. Love the Seahawks as a 6.5-point home favorite. Keep in mind, even though that Arizona defense has been very good this season, second in the NFL in points allowed, vulnerable in the secondary. Only 3 teams this season have allowed more passing yards than the Cardinals, so Russell Wilson will have an opportunity to make some plays this week. Don't think the Seahawks are going to put up a whole lot of points, maybe just 17 to 20, but that's going to be enough. Like I mentioned, I don't think the Cardinals will have any success on offense. Seattle minus 6.5, my favorite play of the day. There you have it. Those are my 3 best bets in this Week 12. I like Tampa plus 5.5 on the road in Chicago, Cincinnati plus 1.5 in Houston, and I like the Seattle Seahawks minus 6.5 at home against Arizona. I wish you best of luck this week, just so long as your interests do not conflict with my interests. Best of luck to you and enjoy the games.